following is a presentation of the Women's Football Alliance.
The playoffs are here, and only 24 teams remain across the three divisions on the road to Canton. Welcome to the Road to Canton. I am your host, Brian Sweeney, the voice of the Women's Football Alliance Pro Division National Championship game. With me to break down the playoff brackets across all three divisions is my co-host, Alex Westhead. So let's jump right in to the Division 3 matchups. In the Pacific region, the 5-1 New Mexico Banditas will host the 5-1 Rocky Mountain Thundercats. These teams met back on June 1st, where the Banditas gave the Thundercats their only loss of the season. In the Midwest region, the 4-2 Oklahoma Rage will host the 5-1 Midwest Mountain Lions. Last season, the Mountain Lions were a developmental team, and now in their first season of Division 3, they hope to make a run all the way to Canton. And on the other side of the Division 3 bracket, in the Southeast region, the 5-1 Cincinnati Cougars will host the 5-1 Virginia Panthers. And in the Northeast region, the 5-1 New York Knockout hosts the 5-1 Maine Mayhem. These teams met back in the first week of the season, with New York giving Maine their only loss of the season. Alex, looking at both sides of the Division 3 bracket, we see some familiar faces, but also a team that just last season was in the developmental program. Your thoughts on who you like in the first round?
The big thing with Division 3 that we've seen, since the Division 3 system came in to the WFA is we've seen that home teams have had significant periods of success. And so looking at these four matchups, on paper, I like all four just because when you look at how home field advantage plays such a factor in the WFA, especially here, Division 3 is probably the area where it plays the most effect. Because when you look at Division 2, the WFA Pro, you're playing teams that are more regionally based. And even though you look at all these matchups here and they're all within that same regional base of travel, it's still home field makes a huge difference here in all of these matchups. The one where I look at this and I say the road team has a decent chance of knocking off an upset is the New York and Maine contest, where when you have that experience, yes, it was the first game of the season, but you still have that experience head-to-head against an opponent. It works in favor of Maine and it works in favor of New York because both teams can make adjustments from what they saw in that contest. I like New York to go ahead and pick off that victory, but an upset by Maine here wouldn't surprise me. Looking out west, New Mexico's done some really great things. Their offense is great. Their defense is an area that they need to improve on as they start to look forward into the back half of the season. And Oklahoma's a tough team to put a true pulse on because of just the range of talent that they've played so far this season. I'd like them to advance out of this round, but how far they go beyond that, well, that's a question that remains to be seen.
Now let's look at the Division 2 brackets. In the American Conference, the 5-1 Nebraska Pride will welcome the 1-5 Austin Outlaws. These teams met in the first round of the playoffs in 2023 as well, with the Pride moving on that season. The 6-0 OKC Lady Force will host the 3-3 Derby City Dynamite. For OKC, it has been back-to-back perfect regular seasons. This year, however, they want to win it all in Canton. And in the National Conference, the 6-0 Atlanta Rage will host the 4-2 Baltimore Nighthawks. In 2023, these teams both met their playoff fate, losing to the eventual Division II champions. And the 5-1 Detroit Venom will travel to play the 5-1 West Palm Beach Coyotes. Both teams are new to Division II, as Detroit self-relegated from the Pro Division, and the Coyotes moved up after being the 2023 Division III national champions. Alex, this looks to be some of the best Division II playoff football that we've seen in recent years. Your thoughts on these brackets?
Well, and I think that the star of the show in Division II, Brian, really comes in the National Conference. Looking at the American Conference with the lower number of teams in that American Conference in the western side of the United States, it creates some, at least what we've seen in the past, to be lopsided matchups. You figure that, Nebraska and OKC will be given good contests, but they should still both come out on top here. I think that, when you look at Derby City going out to play OKC, that's a significant ask, certainly going from Louisville to Oklahoma City, but then also Austin going up to Nebraska to play a Nebraska Pride team that now we've seen in our time here at the WFA get better and better and better every single season that they've been a part of this league. And so I look at this matchup in the American, and I figure that it's going to be chalk all the way through, at least the opening round. Nebraska OKC, if that's what happens, we'll talk about that in 2 weeks' time, but certainly they seem to be the prohibitive favorites here in Division II. You look at the National Conference side, and there's a lot of interesting pieces there where, you have teams that have been there before, but you have teams that are looking to make a name for themselves. You look at how well West Palm Beach has done this season in the Division II side, moving up from Division III a season ago. It's one of those teams where you wonder if they hold on, could they be the next Nevada Storm? Could they be the next, Mile High Blaze, a team that makes all promotions in consecutive years? I think that that's not out of the realm of possibility. I think Atlanta gives them a good test, though. I think Baltimore gives them a good test. And now we get to see Detroit back in a playoff picture and in a playoff game for the first time since the WFA Pro Division became the WFA Pro Division. I'm excited for the National Conference, and looking at all four of those matchups, the American Conference ones are pretty much set in stone in terms of the home team winning those contests. But if you look at what goes on in the National Conference, any of those four teams has a chance of winning that conference going into play today. If I had to put my money on it right now, like I said before, I'd probably give it to West Palm Beach, given their pedigree and how successful they've been since joining the WFA. But don't look past a Baltimore here. Don't look past a Atlanta, who, again, we've seen them have good success against pro teams in the past. And don't look past Detroit, having already been at the top of flight and knowing what it takes to win those contests. I'm excited for the National Conference.
I think I'm starting to see a pattern develop with Lois Cook. Hopefully, I'm right in her segment, Low on the Go.
Oh, I'm so sorry about that. Hey, sugar.
Hey.
How you doing?
How's it going?
Well, so how you doing?
I mean, I'm okay.
Let
I
me sit on
been
down
doing-
now. Wait a minute. Let me
Okay.
sit on down.
Yes, ma'am.
And we wait a minute, because we waiting for the rest of the team to come.
Yeah.
Well,
A
I
little
like
late.
how early you come early, like a
try.
little whippersnapper. I like
I always
that.
want to get extra credit.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yes.
Ah, yes, it's fun. Oh, thank you, dear. Thank you, dear. Come on back. Oh,
There you go.
thank you, sugar.
Oh, no
So
problem.
how you doing? How was your day yesterday?
It was so
You
awesome.
had a day off.
I did. You know
I
what
didn't know
yesterday?
I gave you the
So
day off.
I was-
but I did. Okay. Yes. How was it?
Oh, well, it was fine, I guess.
Wonderful.
Normally when people ask about your day,
How
they
was
kind
it?
of...
How was your
Do you
day?
really want to know?
Would love to know.
You sure?
sugar. I would love to know.
Okay, so yesterday I was in this pageant and it was really cool. What we got to do was we got to be on stage, which was
Wait now. What
terrifying.
you say now? What is that?
A pageant?
A pageant.
Oh, a pageant.
A beauty pageant?
A beauty
A
pageant.
beauty? Oh, because you're so
Beauty.
You're so beautiful.
You're
You're
on.
so beautiful.
Oh, thank you.
So you have a beauty pageant.
Yes.
Then what you do then? What you do?
So I was on stage. I had to talk a lot. I had to think a
Talk?
lot.
What you
I had to
talk?
dance.
You're talking about what, dear?
The beauty pageant.
You say a lot of words. I'm trying to understand. Okay,
Well,
not the beauty pageant. Talk about the beauty pageant.
yes.
Okay, how did that go? That's nice.
It was really cool. I won Miss Full Figure DMV for the cover girl category.
The cover.
Yes.
The
I was a
cover
cover girl.
The
I was on the cover of a magazine. Oh
The
my
cover
gosh.
The cover girl.
Yes.
Well, that's big stuff.
Yes.
Oh, that's so
You should have
wonderful.
came.
Well, yeah, I should have. But I was busy.
Oh,
You see.
doing what? What'd you do yesterday?
I did a fundraiser.
Okay.
Y'all weren't around. I
Sorry.
worked hard.
I'm so sorry.
And we only got $2.50. Anyhow,
$2?
we're not going to take a bus here.
We have to walk now to
I'm
the
proud
next
of
game,
We
which
do.
is okay. Tiny has faith. So wait,
Yeah.
back to this walking.
I got to walk her right here. Yeah.
Oh,
You have okay. Well,
Okay.
I'm going to say you got to get on to practice, so
Okay.
I'm going to let you look at the children come. The cheering coming. Let me get on out the way. The cheering's coming, okay?
Okay.
Okay.
Nice to meet you.
Well, on your beauty
Thank
pageant.
you.
I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Proud of you.
All right, you gonna root for me? Okay.
Let me sit on down next. It's good. Did you bring something for everybody? I gotta take the medicine, that's all. What you call it? Get out of here. A nap. I do like to take naps.
A nap.
Just a little while. But not too long because you got work to do in the day. But that's it. Now she got a beauty pageant. She does. She's so pretty. She's so pretty.
Ooh!
Well, come on now. We got to get there, okay? We got to go. Y'all taking too long to walk.
I'm tired. Grandma, I'm tired.
We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. We're going to take a break. Now, I can't go backwards. I done been there before.
You tired? I know you tired.
You ought not to be tired. You're both football players. Both of you.
Why are we can't be tired?
Why can't we just go like, what you say, dear? Well, if y'all didn't have the day off, we would have had a fundraiser and you would have had a bus. But we're going to walk. It's good for you besides. Well, it's good for your legs. Get you warmed up for the game. You ready for the game, dear?
Just a smidge. What about you?
We're going to win. Let's go. All right. Well, I'm going to go get my water. You just take a little break. I'm going to get my water. I'll be back in a flash. What is with
She always says a flash, and then it seems like it's years later.
Right.
Years later. Like,
What you say, dear?
that was quick.
That was very
You
fast.
came back in a flash. Or did you leave yet?
Hey.
I don't know.
Oh.
You was
Mm-hmm. Well, we don't have much longer to stay here. We got to go.
How much farther? I'm exhausted.
We're right here. The field is
I
right
don't want to
there.
walk anymore, best friend.
The field is right there. Let's go. Now, come on. Where's the rest of the team at? They're going to be here soon.
Oh, wow. Can you lift my leg? Come on, help me lift my leg. Okay, I can do this. I'm tired, but I can do this. It hurts so bad.
Okay.
I think I'm gonna make it. My leg, my eye, my boob. Oh, poor thing.
Oh, dear.
Oh,
It was a tough loss, dear.
it was.
But you tried your best.
We did. What we did. What you say?
Where did you get to go?
That's my other eye.
She and
I know I lost one in the game.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Oh, wait a minute. How you get hurt? Did you play in the game? No.
It was a tough loss, dear.
Wait a minute. For all of us?
We gotta go. We gotta walk back, and we got another game. So get on yourself together,
Whoa.
and we gotta get it together.
And we're gonna
play another game.
Can we ride the dog? Come on, get on. Ow, my leg. Slowly. Just word. Oh, thanks for the help.
After this short break, we will take a look at the Pro Division American Conference playoff picture. She leads her team on the field, and she leads the WFA in touchdowns thrown this season. I recently sat down with the quarterback of the St. Louis Slam, Jamie Gaal, to talk about the success this season and her passion for the game. So, Jamie, this had to be extremely exciting for you as being the first quarterback to hand Boston a loss in almost 6 years to the day when you handed them the loss on May 18th. What was that like?
It definitely felt good. Obviously, we're never going to forget the championship, no matter what. That's always going to stick with us. And I think that's a good thing. Never want to get too confident, never want to get complacent, never want to feel like, nobody can beat you or, nothing can go wrong. So, I think if we play them in the championship, it might be somebody else, we don't know yet. But that win, would obviously mean a lot more. But, it did feel good, in one way, maybe feel like we righted a wrong, got a little revenge back from that game. So definitely felt good, but not the only goal of the season.
Sure. And now let's look at your numbers this season. 988 yards passing, a 122.5 quarterback rating on the season, 19 touchdowns thrown, and only 2 interceptions. I mean, this is spectacular numbers. There are NFL players that wish they had these kinds of numbers in a season.
Thank you. I always say, it starts with my coach. It starts with the O-line. Then once I do my job, the running backs, wide receivers, everybody else just has really done a great job this year. I think last year we had a great year, but obviously didn't get the championship win that we wanted. And I think that kind of, again, fired everybody up a little bit even more. And everybody has been extremely focused this year, including myself. I didn't feel like I had the best game in the championship game last year, and personally just wanted to study more, work on my, footwork, form, everything, just to try to be able to help my team as much as I could.
And finally, before I let you go, I appreciate you, taking the time to talk with me today. The fan base in St. Louis is a great fan base. Game in, year in, those stands are full of people that are cheering for the St. Louis Slam, including the younger generation, the next generation of female football players. What do you have to say to them now that you're in a leadership position, not only for the city of St. Louis, but for women's football as a whole?
Yeah, I actually put on my Instagram story a week or so ago, just like thank you to everyone for the support this year. I and our team, I think, have felt it, even more than ever. And, like you said, when we were younger, maybe the opportunities weren't there, but now the opportunities are coming, they're here, and maybe even more are coming. And so I just encourage everyone to, if you're interested, try it out, whether it's flag, whether it's tackle. Most cities, especially big cities, have opportunities. And maybe hopefully sometime in the next year or later this year or next year, we can, I know sometimes we want to do like a girls camp or a youth camp, so we're going to try to foster that growth in women's football and girls football.
Awesome. Well, hey, best of luck against Cali this weekend. And no matter what, I'm sure I'll see you in Canton, Ohio.
Thank you very much.
This is the first season in recent years where any of the top-seeded teams in the Pro Division could walk away from Canton, Ohio as the national champions. Let's look first at the American Conference. The number 3 seed Mile High Blaze make their first trip to Minnesota since 2018 to battle the number 2 Minnesota Vixen. The last time these two teams met was in the Division II Conference Championship when Minnesota came out on top. The number 4 seed Cali War will travel for the second straight year to face off in the first round against the top quarterback in the league, Jamie Gaal, and the top-seeded St. Louis Slam. Last season when they met, it was St. Louis getting the victory. Alex, these 4 teams are no stranger to the American Conference playoffs. In fact, since I started covering the WFA in 2018, only California, Minnesota, and St. Louis have represented the American Conference in the national championship. which two teams will move on to the conference championship in 2 weeks.
And you say that as well, too. Since I started covering the league in 2019, that's been the exact same case. Very much the same. And you look at this American Conference, all season long. And since we've started doing this Road to Canton show, our big topic about the American Conference has been how close and competitive it is. This is the first year truly where you started to see St. Louis pull away from that pack just a little bit. Your results at home against Boston really helped you there. Your result in the last week of the regular season against Minnesota really helped you there. But let's start first with that Minnesota-Mile High matchup. This is one that I've been excited and hoping to see since the Vixen made the jump to the Pro Division and since Mile High were promoted to the Pro Division as well. I think that when you look at this matchup here in Minnesota, the big thing that I look at is the matchup between the Mile High offense and the Minnesota defense. We've talked about Minnesota's defensive challenges. It's not the front line, it's not the linebacking core, it's the secondary. We know that Mile High can pass the football very, very well. And so my big focus for this contest is how well does Mile High pass against the Minnesota defense? It's a defense in Minnesota that we've seen shredded by quality quarterbacks time and time again this season. Their playbook defensively has gotten simpler, but they are still vulnerable in the secondary and over the top. We've seen that all season long. And so when I look at that matchup, if Mile High can take advantage of that, forcing the safeties, forcing the cornerbacks to play a little bit further back, that opens up ground for the running game. And when you have a running game that has been as successful as Mile High's has been over the time, you look at it on paper and you say that this is probably a Minnesota favorite victory. I don't know that it is, because again, when you look at Minnesota's offense as well, they're coming off of what I imagine they would like to call an abysmal performance in the last week of the regular season in St. Louis, where they looked none of the part of the team that they were in their opening contest against the Slam. And so when I look at this matchup, if Minnesota gets off to a slow start, knowing the defense that Mile High has, it could be a long day for them at the Yard. Certainly, I don't think that that's going to be the case, but it's something to keep an eye on, because Minnesota, we know they can come from behind in contests. They did so last year in Cali. But Mile High, their defense, even with a raucous home field advantage, it's one of the closer matchups that I think Minnesota's had in the opening round of the playoffs since they made the jump to the Pro Division. I don't think Arlington gave them that threat, the threat as much as this back in 2021. I don't think Nevada gave them as much a threat in 2022, and I don't think that they got as much of a threat as well last year in 2023. This matchup is really exciting to me. I'm very curious to see who wins, and I have this as a coin flip. Now, for St. Louis and Cali, I think it's a whole different story. You look at the Cali War, and again, we've talked about the Cali War many times this season on Road to Canton. There's a lot of things to like about them. Their offenses look great. Tanya Guzman has stepped into that main quarterback role and has surged. Cali War's offense is in the top 5, as it always is. Their struggle, of course, again, remains on defense, where they have remained average at best. I think the big thing for the Cali War in this contest, you look at how they've done on the road against WFA Pro teams this year. They're 1-2 on the road against Pro Division teams. My big thing for them is how do they keep points off the scoreboard from the best quarterback in the Women's Football Alliance? Because we know, you just talked to Jamie Gaal, we just played that interview. She has been every bit better since she entered the league in 2019. This is a quarterback that has a dynamite arm, and I imagine she has dreams that her jersey will be in Canton, Ohio, the Pro Football Hall of Fame this season. And when you look at how well St. Louis has done, how well they've done at home, everything leads me to believe that St. Louis should win this and win this by a significant margin. But that being said, as we've talked about with Cali before, if you get a turnover, if you force St. Louis to make a mistake, which granted, they don't do a lot, and we've seen that since, they didn't play in 2021, they came back in 2022, had a slow start to their season, but then returned to Slam football at the end of the year. We've seen it now over the course of 2.5 seasons where the Slam do not make mistakes. And if Cali wants a chance in this game, they're going to have to force St. Louis to make a mistake. Otherwise, for another time in a row, Minnesota St. Louis for a chance at the national championship.
We'll be right back to look at the National Conference side of the Pro Division bracket. Welcome back. Let's look at the National Conference side of the Pro Division bracket. For the first time since the Road to Canton premiered, the Boston Renegades are not the #1 overall seed in the Pro Division. As the number 2 National Conference seed, they will host the number 3 seeded DC Divas. These two teams have a long history with each other, with Boston's last loss to the Divas on May 19, 2018. Boston has since won the last 12 straight. The number 4 seed Tampa Bay Inferno will travel to play the number 1 seeded Pittsburgh Passion. These teams met back on May 25th, with the Passion winning by 18. Alex, much like the American Conference, the National Conference is filled with teams that are used to postseason play. The big difference this season is the playoffs may not necessarily go through Boston on their way to Canton. What 2 teams will make it to the National Conference Championship?
Well, and I think that barring I don't want to say miracle, but barring a miracle, you certainly have to figure that Pittsburgh's going to win against Tampa. But let's talk about Boston here. I think that, the question for the longest time, at least in the years that we've been doing Road to Canton, was not who was going to beat the Boston Renegades, who was going to come close to them. Well, now you have 2 teams that have beaten them for the first time in forever. And so even with those chips on their shoulders, I think that when you look at Boston, you still have to recognize that those are 2 road losses. And with the Boston Renegades at home, that certainly gives them that motivation to be able to go back and say, those 2 losses weren't the fluke. We're still the Boston Renegades, and we are going to run crazy over you. That's what plays to their advantage here in this postseason matchup against DC, because they have that primacy, that bias where they've had a recent game against them, they've had a recent film against them, and even though DC was able to keep it close early, Boston ran away with it very, 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 very much soon after that. And so when I look at this matchup, I see what the Boston Renegades did, and the big question that we have to ask again for Boston is, where is the strength at quarterback? We've talked about McFadden filling in for Cahill this season. She's done a good job, but not a great job. And I think that for the Boston Renegades, that's the biggest thing that's holding them back as of this time. The question becomes, and of course, it's not a question that we know the answer to, what is the status of Allison Cahill going into the playoffs? In that Week 8 game against DC, the Revere TV broadcast showed a picture of her holding one of the muskets and firing them off after a touchdown for the Boston Renegades. Does that mean she's close? Does that mean she's playing? What does that mean? And certainly for a team, DC has seen Boston more than anybody in the past 5 years. And so certainly when you know what you have in the backseat of Allison Cahill, you have to be careful, because Cahill's not somebody who, not having had to deal with the stress of a 8-week football season, not having had to deal with practices and being tackled and being hurt, you have to wonder if all of a sudden you have a well-rested, arguably greatest of all-time quarterback that you can sit in your back pocket. If she's ready to go, why wouldn't you use her here? She's seen the DC defense enough. She's seen how to attack and use these great weapons that they have. Now that the Renegades seem to be getting back to full strength. Ruth Mata's come back for the last 3 weeks here and has been phenomenal, as we expected her to be. They don't have Tuti Kustanen, but Katie Falkowski still makes this running game great. The passing game, still phenomenal. Spring Gamble, Stephanie Pasquale. There's a lot of really good pieces for Boston, and even though they might be the number 2 seed, winning in the regular season against them is one thing, but winning in the postseason is another. And we know that the Boston Renegades excel in the postseason. I like them to advance here, and I like them to advance against Pittsburgh. And, at that point, you throw your chips in the pot, and really, if you're Boston, you're playing with house money. Because now you're no longer the hunted. You're the hunter. Because now you have to go back and live to the expectations and prove that your losses at Pittsburgh and at St. Louis were not a fluke. I think they have the ability to do that. I would not be surprised if we're sitting on ESPN2 in Canton, Ohio in the end of July, and we're calling the Boston Renegades and the St. Louis Slam like we projected that we would. It would not be a surprise to me. But on the other side of this National Conference bracket, you have Pittsburgh. And I think Pittsburgh, a top 3 offense, a top 2 defense. You like what the Pittsburgh Passion have done this year. The big thing we talked about Week 1, Brian, was Pittsburgh had to stay healthy. Largely, they have. The game where they went down to Tampa, I said that the best victory for them was to come back healthy. They did. Now they get Tampa on their home turf. And with everything that's gone well for Tampa this season, scheduling a tough schedule, they've had success and momentum in the back half of their schedule. So I don't think this is going to be the cakewalk that people expect it to be for Pittsburgh, but I still expect Pittsburgh to win. They've been dominant at home this season. They too, having already played an opponent that they're playing again this week, I like them to win, but I only like them to win by maybe 7-10 points here, because I think the momentum for Tampa and how they've gone in the back half of their season, plus with how well Candace Brady has stepped into that starting quarterback role, I really like what Tampa has done. I don't expect them to win, but I expect it to be a great matchup between Pittsburgh and Boston in the National Conference Final.
24 teams are going into this weekend, and only 12 will come out. In 2 weeks, we will look at those 12 teams and their matchup in their conference championships. For Lois Cook and Alex Westhead, I'm Brian Sweeney, and we'll see you in 2 weeks on the road to Canton.
Thank you for watching the preceding presentation from the Women's Football Alliance.